It's that time of week once again, ladies and gents. Welcome back to the weekly mailbox. You know the drill by now. Your chance to ask me questions about absolutely anything you like. Feel free to throw them in the comments below, smack them in my face on Instagram, or tweet me at F1 Reviews. I think that's my handle. I'm not sure, you know. That's not good marketing. Anyways, a little bit of housekeeping before we start today. First of all, 5 o'clock UK time today, so I think this might come out just a little bit afterwards. So as soon as you finish here, head over to the F1 Debate Show, their brilliant new series, F1 YouTubers Decoded. They've asked me to go on, so I am talking with Jordan. I think it's about an hour and a half long, so it's quite a while. So if you've got a bit of time, feel free to go listen to that. All about my journey with Formula 1 YouTube. I had an absolute blast talking with Jordan, so go and check that out. 8 o'clock UK time today, over on the Formula E Word with Sean Hazel Southwell, doing a season preview. And also, one final announcement about next week's weekly mailbox, but I want to get into this question. I really want to get into this question. I love it. So, announcement at the end as well. So, Joseph Beveridge. I think that's your name, buddy. I think I've got that right for once. Love this question. Awesome question. Nice and zesty to start the episode. Do you believe Max Verstappen could get caught out by other young drivers and never find a seat that will enable his full potential like Alonso? Crikey bobbers, mate. Awesome question. Love this one. Nice and fiery to start off the episode. So, old Max Verstappen in his 5th season of Formula 1. And if that doesn't make you feel old, I don't know what will. But this man, 21 years old, 7 Grand Prix victories. Let's break down the question. So, because otherwise I'm just going to ramble for the entire video. Because I want to be concise here. That's the idea with Mailbox. But I think I might also cover this one in the podcast as well. Because I really like it. But in short, first of all, will he get overtaken by other drivers? I think, like you've alluded to in your question, it will all come down to the car. Because at the moment, I think Verstappen's one of the top 2 drivers on the grid. We've already seen him in a car which, I think it's comfortably the 3rd best on the grid this year. He's won 2 races. He's got 2 pole positions. Mexico didn't really count, did count, whatever you want to say. 2 pole positions is how we'll do it in this particular video today. That's how we'll say it. It's not 2, it's officially 1. Stop rambling, Dan. 2 victories. Of course, that incredible victory in Germany. Also in Austria. But I think this year, if anything, it's proved the level Max Verstappen is slowly getting to. He's still got a few immaturities in him. However, I think he's definitely ironing those out. And this year, for me anyway, has been his best in Formula 1 ever. I really think he's been that good this season. I think he's definitely just flattened or plateaued a little bit in the second half of the year. A few things haven't quite gone his way. Engine penalties, a lap 1 incident in Spa. But you've seen drives like the USA last time out, scoring a podium where you'd think Ferrari would have a car that would challenge for the victory. The car wasn't brilliant for Ferrari, and Red Bull probably were the 2nd best car on that day. But I think what Max has proved is that consistency that, I suppose you could say a couple of years ago, there were a lot of eyes on Verstappen for dodgy moves, late braking, overtakes a little bit scrappy. I think that's completely been taken out of his driving. So I think Verstappen is one of the 2 best drivers on the grid, personally. There you go, Orange Army. The nicest thing I've said about Verstappen all year. But will younger drivers overtake him? George Russell, Esteban Ocon, if they get in a Mercedes over the next couple of years, then maybe they could challenge for a title if Hamilton moves on. Lando Norris, if McLaren suddenly out of nowhere get a brilliant car in 2021, potentially. Will he be the next Alonso? That's where it gets interesting, and I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below, because Alonso, for me, is one of the most underachieving Formula 1 drivers of all time. And if Verstappen keeps remaining in the 3rd best car, it's likely it can happen. I think Verstappen will be champion. I think he'll be fine, but it's a really unique take, and I really enjoyed that one. But yes, I'll talk about that a little bit more in a podcast over the winter. So that's my answer in short, if you will. Another Joseph asks me question number 2, a Joseph special today. Who will be Esteban Ocon's partner for 2021? Question for the audience, Ocon or Ocon? I mean, I change every sentence how I say his name, as I do most drivers, but I really like this question as well, because at the moment, for 2019, it's Daniel Ricciardo and Nico Hülkenberg. I did a video a couple of days ago saying that I definitely believe Hülkenberg should be in that car, and I think he's a little bit unlucky to not be in a Formula 1 seat. That's an understatement, crikey. But yeah, I think he's unlucky to not be in a Formula 1 seat next year. So, 2021. A couple of years down the line, as you've said in your question, Ocon is under contract to stay at Renault for 2021, so who will be there? I'm assuming Joseph, or Joe. I'm assuming you want to be called Joe. Most Josephs do. I'm assuming you've watched the channel before and have heard my thoughts that I think Daniel Ricciardo will be moving on in 2021 to a Ferrari, to a Mercedes, wherever. I think he'll be moving on. So, I'm not going to say Ricciardo. However, he's definitely in the right place. If he can see improvements next year, then he'll be staying where he is. But I want to put some more names into the hat. So, boring, I know. Nico Hülkenberg, potentially next year. He could be remaining with the team as a third driver role, development driver. I doubt it. I think he's a driver with too much credentials now to be a test and reserve driver, but it's a possibility to at least leave the door open for 2021. So Hülkenberg would be a sensible option. Someone who's going to be consistent, not throw away silly points, but potentially doesn't have that bit of flair that a driver like Ricciardo has. I wonder about drivers like Sergio Perez. Whether, I mean, how long has he been at Force India now? Did he join in 2014? He's been there forever. Racing Point it's called now. Just save myself. Just save myself there from the keyboard warriors. Will he want to make one final move in his career to try and get a podium, and well, another podium, but to try and finally get a victory, get in that championship hunt? I think Perez perhaps is a little bit past that now, but if Renault deliver the goods, then maybe he'll try for it. What about drivers like Pierre Gasly? Or Renault's own young drivers, Guanyan Zhou, I think, is looking really good in Formula 2. So, there's definitely options out there for Renault. They're not limited like teams like Mercedes, like Ferrari. They don't necessarily, well, they don't have any B team, really. McLaren isn't a B team, so they have options. And if I was going to put money on it, I can see Pierre Gasly being alongside Ocon in 2021. Moving away from that Red Bull programme, yeah. I like the sound of that. Or Romain Grosjean going to the team where he first started his F1 career. I'd rate that as well. Question 3. A really unique question. Lots of unique questions this week. I enjoyed picking out these ones. Das Fons. Awkward name, buddy. But thank you for sending in your question. The new Formula 1 tune. Love it. There was an uproar when it first came out. How do you feel about it now? I love it. Oh, well, I've just answered it. I love it as well. But I wanted to include this question because I think he raises a really good point. My first ever video on this channel was in reaction to the new logo, which at the time, instantly, as soon as it came out, there was hate for it. Absolutely screaming to the hills was Twitter about this awful new logo, how it needs to be scrapped, get in the bin, leave. And I quite liked it. I thought it was quite modern, quite fresh. Just that, something new that I quite liked about it and thought it was a bit different. So I did a video and explained how I liked it and people need to get in the bin. Although I didn't say that back then because, I wasn't... I was a little bit more nervous back though, back at the end of 2017. But the new song as well. When I first heard it, I think like most people, I thought it was ripped straight out of Pirates of the Caribbean or something like that. So it's really grown on me, and I would even say it's become iconic. I love it that much. I think it's brilliant. Short question, short answer, but it gets the job done. Next question comes from Harrison Osira. One day, I will pick questions from people I can pronounce their names. So, Harrison, my friend. Formula E question. When will Formula E boot FANBOOST? Okie dokie. Is this something they need to do in order to gain the respect of the world's racing scene? I've said this a few times today about things getting in the bin, but FANBOOST is another one that needs to get in the bin. I'm not a big fan of FANBOOST, ironically. I don't think many people are. in 2019. Going into Season 6, they will have it for a 6th season in a row. But I think actually, last year, I mean, if you don't keep up to date with Formula E, first of all, I would recommend just slowly trying to get into it this season. Last year was the best season yet, and I think this year it will continue. But last year, they introduced attack mode, which was kind of the replacement for FANBOOST. Although FANBOOST was still there, that was the new gimmick about Formula E, to get people interested, to add a new unique element. And it had its teething problems, did attack mode, but I think they're going to really iron those out this year. Already, I was reading through the rules and regulations for this year, actually, and a lot of the issues with attack mode, they've been outruled, and I think that'll be much better this year. Which makes me think, well, why do you need to keep FANBOOST in? I think a lot of people, like you've said in your question, don't quite take Formula E seriously because of FANBOOST. However, what I would say to people is FANBOOST doesn't really do a fat lot. It honestly doesn't. I mean, it gives them, so if you're not aware, FANBOOST is a little bit of a, well, as it says, a bit of a boost. Down the straight, drivers will generally use it to make an overtake. But for me, the amount of overtakes in Formula E anyway is astronomical compared to Formula 1. We've got attack mode, we've got different drivers saving their battery at different rates. So if you didn't know who had FANBOOST, you wouldn't know when these overtakes were happening. So whilst I don't like it, I don't think it's needed, I think last year was the year where I kind of thought, well, it's not making a lot of difference. If it's there to appease younger fans, I understand it. But yeah, I think you're right. It would get a lot more respect if they did bin it. And put it this way, I wouldn't be too sad if they got rid of it. And our final question, bit of a hiccup on this one. Mainly because when I chose the questions and did the graphics, a certain announcement hadn't happened. But such is the way of being a Formula 1 YouTuber. When you record something, oh, do teams love to announce something. So, William, thank you for your question, buddy. Who do you think deserves the Red Bull seat more? Gasly, Albon, or the Torpedo himself, Danny Kvyat? So, obviously, Albon has got the seat, and Gasly and Kvyat are staying at Toro Rosso, or AlphaTauri as it will be named, in 2020. So what I'm going to do, because it's our audience participation question, and some of your answers for these are brilliant in the comments below, I'm going to change the question. I've never done this before. Pushing boundaries in episode 22, I think we're at now. Pushing boundaries, ladies and gents. What I'm going to ask you is, if Max Verstappen leaves Red Bull at 2020, who will be in that Red Bull car in 2021? I find this question a little bit more, well, I was going to say more interesting, but only because we know who the drivers are now for next year. But I look at Red Bull, and whilst Albon I think is doing a really good job, I think a lot of people have pointed out in my comment section and on social media, he's doing a good job, but he's not winning Grand Prix. He's not doing a Verstappen where he's up the front with the leaders, and that's something, maybe the Gasly effect has perhaps tainted our view a little bit on what the second Red Bull driver should be doing. Don't get me wrong, still very impressed with Alex Albon. But if Albon was their number one driver, and then they had Gasly or Kvyat, I'm not too sure. So I'd love to know your thoughts below. Who will be at Red Bull in 2021 if Max Verstappen leaves? And that's where I'll leave it for today's episode. Announcement time. Yeah, feel free to put your comments in the comment section below. In 2 weeks' time, there will be no weekly mailbox. So if your comments are in this week, I will use those over the next couple of weeks. So don't worry if your question's not in next week's video, if that makes sense, because I might use it in a few weeks' time as well. So keep an eye out for that. The 27th of November is a couple of Wednesdays' time, which is when I won't be doing the weekly mailbox. And fans of the channel for a while will know why there is no video on the 27th of November. Or at least there is a video. It's one I do every year. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching. If you're new and you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. And hopefully, to the rest of you, I'll see you in the next one.